Maude was a popular sitcom that ran from 1972 to 1978. It's known for embracing and addressing controversial elements via the starring character, Maude, played by Beatrice Arthur. Bee's character, Maude, was a strong, independent woman, rife with opinions and a left-leaning set of political ideals. Her boisterous demeanor and undying commitment to women's liberation and civil rights often led her into conflict with others in a way that educated audiences as much as it divided them. Maude ran for 6 seasons before it was inevitably cut by CBS in 1978 at the end of a particularly lackluster streak that resulted in falling ratings and a lack of public interest. While some audiences were surprised at the cancellation, Beatrice has been vocal about expecting it. In fact, in a recent interview, she revealed she knew exactly when and why the series was coming to an end. In this video, we'll take a look at the downfall of this legendary show according to Bea Arthur. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out the exact moment that Maude jumped the shark. Factsverse presents Beatrice Arthur reveals why Maude was canceled. And if you're a fan of the Maude television series, let us know by clicking the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell for more videos like this. A Portrait of an American Woman. Maude Finlay as a character was a creation of Norman Lear, the television legend behind the classic hit All in the Family, another show that dealt with serious subject matter in an oftentimes lighthearted, easy-to-digest manner. In fact, Maude was a spin-off of that series and continued its trademark tradition of pushing societal boundaries. Bea played Edith Bunker's cousin Maude on All in the Family, where she came to the rescue of the Bunker family in an episode where they all fell gravely ill with the flu. The studio liked her no-nonsense role so much, they gave her her own show. Maude wasn't a ditzy, airheaded young girl like so many other shows at the time featured. Rather, she was intelligent and fiercely independent. She wouldn't take no for an answer, and she wouldn't back down when she ran into opposition, which she often did. She also became an iconic portrayal of a middle-aged woman at a time where television focused heavily on the young and beautiful. To many viewers, this was a welcome breath of fresh air. Getting political. She was a lifelong Democrat, supported women's equality, questioned gender roles, and pushed the envelope of the American political conversation. She was a political activist with an impeccable deadpan delivery that could make a tense situation into a moment of comedic brilliance. She could also stir the pot something fierce, which would create major waves. These waves would parade the show into television greatness, earning Emmys and accolades, yet eventually also leading to its crashing demise. Even though Beatrice Arthur's character Maude was the quintessential feminine embodiment of liberal socio-political ideology at the time, she wasn't always depicted as such in a positive light. She stood in stark contrast to conservative characters like Archie Bunker or Arthur Harmon, her sardonic Republican next-door neighbor that always used her political stances to get a rise out of her. Despite sharing political opinions in line with the show's creators, she became somewhat of a caricature of the knee-jerk bleeding heart liberal. Her hardline political stances and ever-pervasive need to be open-minded and inclusive would often become her folly. Naivete would lead her into difficult waters to navigate, but ultimately she would always find her way. Hopefully you found your way to clicking the like button, and once you do, be sure to share this video with a friend who enjoys Maude.
I hope you're satisfied, Maude Finley. A bunch of homosexual pansies has just opened a gay bar in Tuckahoe.
And what did Arthur say?
No stranger to controversy. The show seemed to flourish amid constant controversy. In many ways, this was its guiding force throughout the show's illustrious 6 seasons. Although the show is typically billed as a comedy, dark themes and drama were pervasive throughout its run. One such troublesome topic that was touched on by the show was alcoholism and its unfortunate relation to domestic violence. Maude and her husband Walter were social drinkers. You would often see them sipping cocktails and liquor in the evening hours. Maude had a special forte for prescription pills. She took Miltown, a mild tranquilizer, and Valium when her anxiety would peak. Throughout the progression of the show, Walter's drinking became more problematic. In a 2-part episode that started off the 2nd season, Arthur, Walter, and Maude engage in a night of heavy drinking and revelry. In the morning, Maude wakes up next to Arthur in her bed, resulting in a moral panic. This bombshell led to the both of them making pacts to swear off drinking for good. Walter doesn't have the willpower to stay off the wagon and subsequently has a nervous breakdown. It's during this turbulent period of internal conflict and frustration that Walter and Maude end up in a bitter argument. Walter winds up striking Maude across the face, which results in a greater downward spiral of his alcoholism, which is now fueled with greater intensity by his guilt for the domestic violence incident. These sorts of controversial themes were unfamiliar territory in the television world at the time, but were also the bread and butter of topical sitcoms that drew in viewers with scripts that plucked on the heartstrings and explored difficult adult subject material. Maude makes a hard decision. The Roe v. Wade decision in January of 1973 effectively legalized abortion across the U.S. This landmark decision divided the nation's religious conservatives and progressive liberal populations. This single-handedly may have been one of the most controversial court cases in U.S. history. Controversy is also fertile ground for great fiction, and the producers of Maude capitalized on this fact in its first season. Maude found herself inexplicably pregnant at the age of 47 in the two-part episode titled Maude's Dilemma. After multiple discussions with her husband, Walter, they concur that raising a child at their age would be disastrous for their marriage and a serious impediment to their lives. Not only do they not want to have a child at their age, they feel it would be unfair to the child's well-being as well. Maude's daughter, Carol, brought it to her attention that New York, the state they live in, had just legalized abortion. After much internal debate and self-analysis, Maude decides to go through with the procedure and has an abortion. The world subsequently went into full-on moral panic mode. When CBS decided to rerun the episode in 1973, after noting how the controversy surrounding the episode had elevated the show's viewership, 39 different local stations decided to block the episode. The initial airing of the show was met with minimal pushback from broadcaster affiliate stations, with only 2 stations refusing to air the episode, but the public expressed significant outrage. This discontent was expressed in over 24,000 letters of protest from irate viewers, and even organized picketing organized by religious clergy and advocacy groups. Any publicity is good publicity, though, because the show's ratings only continued to soar after this whole ordeal. This proved to be a defining moment for the show for several reasons. It proved that controversy could be highly profitable and good for ratings, but it also showed that the show had the courage to bring groundbreaking themes to the living rooms of audiences and effectively shape the political dialogue of the masses. Television could be a tool for social change. Running out of gas. B. Arthur reveals why Maude was canceled. For its time, Maude was one of the most controversial forces of American television. Right off the bat, the show jumped straight to hard-hitting issues that riled up the consciousness of its viewers and broke new ground that previous shows dared not touch. It took a lot of guts to touch on the subject material that the show's producers and CBS agreed to cover. Abortion, alcoholism, domestic violence, marijuana, prescription drug abuse. Each one of these subjects created massive waves. But what happens when the waves settle? Where do you go when you've already covered all the juiciest material? Beatrice Arthur cites this conundrum as the reason for the show's eventual cancellation. When talking with the show's creator, Norman Lear, she rose concerned that the show was running out of steam. The first year, she said, seemed to me that every single week we were doing some controversial subject like abortion, alcoholism, pot, and then I remember when a show came around that had nothing to do with anything. She scoffed by telling Norman, "We can't do this, it's froth." Norman replied by saying that not every episode could be tackling some major issues because they were in fact running out of controversial issues to discuss. The only thing left is hemorrhoids, he joked. When a show is propelled by its controversy, eventually the viewing public will grow tired or desensitized to the hype. What was once groundbreaking quickly becomes yesterday's news. Television audiences have a relatively short attention span, so you might be able to arouse them with shocking material, and you could even make a habit of that practice, but inevitably you're gonna run out of subject material and start having to scrape the bottom of the barrel. When Maude ran out of controversial gas, it made a mistake that has been the death knell to many a TV show. They nixed major characters and moved the primary couple, Maude and Walter, to Washington, D.C. Suddenly, Maude was thrust into a new career as a congressman appointed by the governor of New York. Jumping the shark. This kind of move in the land of television is known as jumping the shark. This idiom describes the moment that a show makes a risky move at the height of a decline in popularity that only further solidifies the show's inevitable demise. The phrase was coined in reaction to the moment the Fonz jumped a shark while water skiing in the sitcom Happy Days, an absurd event that was wildly panned by audiences and proved to be the end of the long-running show. Beatrice Arthur also felt it was a bad idea for the show to take the turn it did. She said it didn't make any sense to start all over again with a whole new plot and cast of supporting characters. She left the show at this point. And so ended the show that drew in audiences in ways that few shows ever dreamed of. After 6 seasons that took viewers through an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs and never shied away from dabbling in difficult subject material, there was simply nothing left to explore. All sensational stones had already been turned. B. Arthur didn't regret her decision to pull the plug on the show and found continued showbiz success as a primary cast member in the immensely popular and similarly groundbreaking show The Golden Girls, where she yet again played a strong, empowered, albeit opinionated woman who wouldn't put up with any shenanigans. Audiences would never forget Maude's historic role in American TV. She would go down in history as one of the most beloved female characters in sitcom history. This wraps up our eyebrow-raising expose of how Bea Arthur revealed the real reason why Maude was cancelled. What did you think? Do you think Maude should have gone on for a few more seasons, or did it end appropriately right when it was supposed to? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this insightful video about the end of an iconic show in television's history, show us you care by hitting like, subscribing to our channel, and turning on notifications. As always, keep it right here at Factsverse for more videos like this.